Friends, we can all see that many white bloggers have millions of followers. Please support me too, because my followers are still few. Black bloggers also deserve to be famous. Raised fist medium dark skin tone. My friends, let's unite and lift each other up. Please press subscribe button and like. Richard Coleman's mansion was a palace of silence. From the outside, it was a testament to his success. Tall iron gates, a fleet of gleaming cars, and chandeliers that dripped like icy jewels from the ceilings. But inside, it was a mausoleum. The air was cold, the halls too quiet for a house where two young boys lived. Richard had everything money could buy: business empires, bespoke suits, and the respect of his peers. But he had lost the one thing money couldn't touch: his wife, Laura. Since her death, he had turned to stone, a man who scoffed at faith and belief, convinced that the world was built on tangible things and nothing more. His twin sons, Jamie and Daniel, were only 10, and they moved to vast, empty rooms like ghosts. Jamie was a quiet one, his brown eyes a canvas of unspoken sadness. Daniel, though more spirited, carried a similar grief, often burying his face in a pillow to cry when he thought no one was watching. Richard provided them with every material comfort imaginable, but the boys longed for something he couldn't acquire: the warmth of home and the light of a mother's love. This was the house Lillian walked into on her first day as a new maid. She was not a woman of great means, but her simple clothes, warm eyes, and calm smile radiated a different kind of wealth. The mansion's emptiness was palpable to her the moment she crossed the threshold. Her duties were straightforward: clean, cook, and maintain order. Richard had been brusque in the interview, interested only in her efficiency. He didn't ask about her life or her beliefs. To him, she was just another cog in the machine of his perfect, silent world. But Lillian noticed what Richard couldn't or wouldn't see. She saw Jamie at the window, staring out as if waiting for a miracle. She saw the hidden tears and the lack of genuine laughter. One night, as she passed the boys' room, she heard them whispering. "I wish Mommy was here to tell us stories," Daniel said, his voice a frail echo. Jamie's voice, equally small, replied, "Or to pray for us before we sleep." Lillian's heart ached. She pushed the door open softly. "Boys," she said, "would you like me to tell you a story?" The twins' surprise was instant. Their father never told them stories, and the previous nannies had always rushed bedtime. Daniel's eyes lit up, and a faint smile touched Jamie's lips. Lillian sat on the edge of the bed and spun a simple tale of kindness and hope. When she finished, she folded her hands and whispered, "My mother taught me to say a small prayer before sleeping. Would you like to try?" Jamie hesitated. "Daddy doesn't like prayer." Lillian's smile was soft and understanding. "It doesn't have to be loud. Just a little talk from your heart, like telling God about your day or wishing for something good." The boys looked at each other, a silent question passing between them. "Can we ask him to make Daddy happy again?" Daniel whispered. Lillian's chest tightened with emotion. "Yes," she said. "You can ask for that." And so, for the first time in years, Jamie and Daniel knelt by their bed, their small voices clumsy but pure. "God, please make Daddy smile again. Please help us not feel so lonely. And please take care of Mommy in heaven." Tears pricked Lillian's eyes as she whispered amen with them. That night, the boys slept more peacefully than they had in a long time. The next morning, Richard noticed a change. His sons greeted him with small smiles at the breakfast table. Daniel even asked about his work, and Jamie hummed a quiet tune. Richard raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. Lillian continued her nightly routine, and the boys' laughter began to echo through the halls. The house itself seemed to warm. Richard noticed a change, but couldn't grasp its source point one evening. He paused outside their door. He heard Lillian's gentle voice, followed by his son's whispering words he hadn't heard since his wife's death, words of prayer. His face hardened, his chest tightening with a cold fury. He stood there, jaw clenched, listening. To him, prayer was a foolish weakness, a crutch for those who couldn't face reality. And now, this maid was filling his children's heads with nonsense. Memories of Laura praying with the boys when they were little, a sight he had always mocked, flooded his mind. He didn't sleep that night, the anger and pain warring within him. By morning, his decision was made. He would confront Lillian and put an end to this foolishness. "Lillian," he said sharply at the breakfast table, his voice cutting through the morning calm. "We need to talk. Now." The twins froze, their small hands gripping their forks. They knew that tone. In his study, the door closing with a heavy thud, Richard turned to face her, his expression like chiseled stone. "What exactly do you think you are doing?" he demanded. "Sir, I don't understand," she replied, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "You understand perfectly," he snapped. "I heard you at night, teaching my sons to pray." Lillian swallowed, her gaze unwavering. "They were sad, sir. They missed their mother. They needed comfort. I only gave them what little I knew could help." "Comfort?" he scoffed. "By filling their heads with lies? I pay you to clean, not to preach nonsense. I don't allow that in this house." "Children need more than food and clothes," Lillian said softly, her voice full of conviction. "They need hope. They need to believe that tomorrow can be brighter." "Enough!" Richard roared. "Pack your things. You're fired." The words were a hammer blow. Lillian bowed her head slightly, accepting her fate without argument. "Yes, sir." But outside the door, two small, terrified faces had been listening. Jamie and Daniel had heard every word, their hearts pounding in unison with their father's rage. Back at the dining table, their appetites were gone. The mansion felt colder than ever. That night, Richard sat in his office, drinking whiskey, the silence a deafening roar. Lillian packed her bag, her heart heavy. At midnight, Daniel whispered to his brother, "We can't let her go." "But what can we do?" Jamie asked, his voice trembling. "Daddy won't listen." "Then we'll pray louder," Daniel declared, his small face filled with a new kind of determination. "We'll show him ourselves." The boys slipped out of bed, knelt on the soft carpet, and folded their hands. "God," Daniel began, his voice shaky but brave, "please don't let Daddy send Lillian away. She makes us happy. She makes this house feel warm again." Jamie continued, his voice a whisper, "And please, God, make Daddy smile. We haven't seen him smile since Mommy died. Please make him happy." Their voices carried down the hall. Richard, on his way upstairs, froze. He recognized the words. He followed the sound, finding the door to their room ajar. He pushed it open gently and saw them, his sons on their knees, eyes closed in silent pleading. For a moment, his heart felt like it stopped. "Please, God," Daniel whispered again, "don't let Daddy be sad anymore." Richard's throat tightened. He hadn't cried in years, but a fissure opened deep inside him. He wanted to storm in to yell, but he couldn't move. He looked at Lillian, who stood in the corner, tears sliding down her cheeks. She hadn't led them this time. This was their own choice. Finally, he stepped into the room, his voice a broken rasp. What are you doing?" The boys turned, startled. "Daddy," Jamie said, his voice a small, trembling plea. "We were praying for you." Those words pierced him more deeply than any business failure ever could. He looked at them, their innocent eyes, their hands still clasped together. His anger dissolved into a raw, aching pain. He turned and left, hiding the sudden wetness in his eyes and his study. He sat in the dark, the memory of his wife and her gentle faith flooding his mind. She had begged him to pray with them, and he had always laughed. Now, her words echoed in the voices of their sons. Make Daddy smile again. The next morning, the mansion was heavy with silence. The boys sat at the table, refusing to eat, their eyes downcast. Richard's decision to fire Lillian was no longer clear. When he told them to get ready for school, Jamie looked at him and said, "We don't want to go." "Not if you send Lillian away." Daniel's eyes glistened with tears. "She's the only one who makes us feel loved." Richard looked at them, and for the first time in years, he felt powerless. He had built an empire on control, but these two small boys, armed with nothing but love, had broken through his walls. He pushed his chair back and walked toward his study. Lillian followed. "Mr. Coleman," she said gently, "please don't be angry with them. They only want you to be happy." Richard spun around, his voice laced with frustration. Happy? Do you think I don't give them everything? Clothes, school, a roof over their heads. Those things are not enough, she replied softly. Children need more than money. They need to feel loved. And, sir, they need you. Her words landed with a thud. That evening, Richard found himself at the door of the twins' room again. This time, he walked in. What did you ask for this time? He asked, his voice soft. We asked God to make you smile like you used to when Mommy was here. Daniel's voice trembled. The words shattered him. He sat on the edge of the bed, no longer able to hide his tears. Jamie reached out, touching his father's hand. Daddy, we don't want toys. We just want you to be happy with us. Richard looked at them, his vision blurred. He remembered Laura's voice, full of faith and his own mockery. I don't know how to pray, he admitted, his voice broken. You don't need special words, sir, Lillian said from the doorway. Just speak from your heart. The boys grabbed his hands. It's easy, Daddy. Just say what you feel. He bowed his head, his words clumsy and raw. If you're really there, take care of my boys. Help me be a better father, and tell Laura I miss her. Jamie squeezed his hand and whispered, Amen. Richard pulled both boys into his arms, his heart, once locked in a cage of grief, cracking wide open. He didn't become a man of faith overnight, but something had shifted. Lillian stayed, no longer just a maid, but a part of their new, slowly mending family. Days turned into weeks. Richard smiled more often. The boys' laughter echoed through the mansion, a sound that finally felt right. At night, he listened as they prayed, and sometimes quietly, he joined them. One evening, as he watched his sons kneel with Lillian by their bedside, he felt a profound sense of peace. He realized that money could build walls, but only love could tear them down. Wealth could fill a house with gold, but only faith and love could make a home. For the first time since Laura's death, Richard truly smiled. The boys saw it immediately. Daddy's smiling, they shouted, jumping into his arms. He held them tight, whispering, I promise I'll never shut love out of this house again.